I'm Gary Venner, CEO of IFA Acquisitions, and I'm joined by Glynn Mummery, insolvency practitioner and partner of national business advisory firm FRP Advisory, where we continue our informative question and answer series on our YouTube channel to provide top tips when selling an IFA business and an insight into market conditions faced by company owners that are looking to exit and liquidate. The title of this video is coming up on our screen now.
We spoke earlier about a vanilla sale, and in that set of circumstances, I see that as a sale that happens. There's always been a very clear strategy. The exit is smooth, and there's no issues. How often does that happen?
More times than you believe, to be honest, which is good news.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's true to say that most financial advisors do work in quite a vanilla way. Again, use that 80-20 rule. I'd say 80% of the deals do come to us. Absolutely perfect for selling.
So we looked at obviously the positive side where there's value for the shareholders and the companies are solvent. There are situations, as we both know, where there is a business failure and unfortunately the practice is indeed insolvent. In that set of circumstances and from your experience, where do you find those business owners first go to try and find some advice about what to do?
I think in my experience, it's probably likely that they're already talking with their accountants. The accountants will be fully aware of certain things that's happening in the business. So I'm guessing accountants would be a natural sort of first party there. But I also think that potentially their compliance partners too would equally be aware of that. So if there was an issue over advice that was likely to be causing a complaint that may lead to redress, and particularly on the terms of their professional indemnity insurance, then compliance are going to be involved in there. And of course, from that business, they want to make sure that they are responding to a complaint in the correct way that meets the FCA requirements. So again, compliance is going to be there. And I'm guessing that would be an early flag to say, look, I think this could cause a problem to the business. And so then in conjunction with accountants, how can that business afford whatever this interruption is going to be as a cost to their business. So first and foremost there, and I think I would rule out here, legal team here, is getting specialist lawyers that understand financial services and understanding the terms of the contract as well. So we'd see all those three parties. And often we do get introductions when this happens, because it's looking to, have we had these experiences before? Can we help? Do we know that how other businesses have come through this? Is the business likely to be able to be sold either as a whole or in parts as well? So we have equally involvement there too.
Because you're very much focused on your particular sector, and I'm sure you've seen many different circumstances of failure. Is there any particular common themes that have caused that failure?
Well, I think I would say, Glynn, getting into higher risk areas of investments, and for many advisors, they always set out to do the right thing for clients. So it's about making sure clients are aware of the different investment vehicles that might suit them. But some do backfire, and if we looked at UCITS and regulated collective investment schemes, they were felt that they were good ways, particularly for high net worth clients, to invest maybe in sort of emerging markets, or it's investing in a teak plantation, for instance. It's going to be many years before income comes through that. But SCA will consider whether this was good advice or bad, and then if it was deemed that this is outside and professional indemnity don't want to cover future This is a problem because these are annual policies, and so it can cause a problem to what was a very sound business. And let's just say you've got a business that could be valued. I remember a business was valued around £4 million, but they'd invested clients to around a tune of 4 million, and if those claims came out, it could wipe out the value of that business. That just it just explains, I think, how it can be the downfall of a business, even trying to do the right thing. And I say the biggest hot potato at the moment is defined benefit pension transfers. We have to remember here the government encouraged the transferring of pensions under pension freedoms. And for many, particularly as interest rates dropped to an all-time low, went down to 0.1%, that affected annuities in the same way. So for a transfer value was often linked to annuities. And so the transfer values were typically 20 to 40 times what the pension. And for many, they would consider their own life expectancy and consider, well, isn't this a better thing to transfer out my pension? And of course, leaving it in place, whilst it's a great opportunity to have that pension, and it falls to half pension typically for a spouse, but our pension does die with the individual, or as I say, go down to 50%. So sometimes there's an area with, why don't we transfer it out so we can keep all of it to pass to a spouse or pass to a future generation as well. So we understand why there was so much activity in that market, but it clearly is not right for everybody to have their defined benefit pension transfer, often index linked, transferred in this way. Volatility of markets and advisor fees can erode that. And so we're now finding that there's firms set up to encourage complaints, etc. So these type of things do actually affect a business transferability and whether somebody's prepared to buy it and the value of that business as well.
I always found it quite a challenge for any business that it works within the sector where you can have that retrospective analysis of the advice that you've given,
absolutely.
And the kind of a new lens put on it, and what you said back then gets called into question.
I mean, you could say that about endowment mortgages, couldn't you? Years ago, they were so the way to protect your mortgage instead of doing it on a repayment basis. And then a few years later, it's with hindsight, this may be not such a good idea, and this is what happens.
It makes the playing field very difficult for the professionals that operate on the pitch. I obviously get to meet directors when their businesses are going through some tough times, and I'm always conscious of the fact that when they're sitting in front of me, it's probably one of the lowest moments for them, and they're facing challenges. There's all sort of emotions at play. Many when they don't need to be, but such as don't want to ask daft questions, don't want to the embarrassment of it all, and various things. And I always assume that actually I'm not being asked everything that they'd like to ask me, for risk that they don't want to they don't want to sound silly, ask a daft question. With that in mind, when you have been in a situation where you're talking to a director that's facing challenges, are there any sort of typical questions that they ask you that I might not get asked?
Well, it's interesting to know, to be able to answer that question. I guess I'm assuming that we have those sort of questions asked of us earlier, because you are probably sort of at the point where insolvency is perhaps inevitable. So I guess that they will have asked various questions already of the options available before we get to your place, because typically what we see is that very early stages, and sometimes it's before the event they are concerned that something may happen, etc. So for us, I suppose it's for us to help to steer who would be best at that point to help them. And it is really important, because when we talk, we often find they don't know where to turn to, who to go to for advice over and above the advice that they've already been given. And for us, where we work with industry experts, it's useful for us to sort of help signpost. And of course, you know, working with yourself as well, it's great that, you know, that we have somebody that understands the liquidation process, if that's where we're going to end up going as well. Thank you for watching our series over the past few weeks. We hope you gained value from what was discussed. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get notified of our next series.